Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Hey everyone, welcome back to Chapter 1 and Beyond. If you're new here, hi, welcome. And if you're coming back, welcome back. My name is Christina, and in today's episode, we're diving into something a little different than what I've been doing in the past 6 episodes in bonus episodes. And I'm gonna kind of show my true techiness and nerdiness, but I promise it's going to level up your reading recommendations, and it's actually really super cool. But I want to talk about today about how I use AI assistants to get new and improved book recommendations, and why you should be using it too. I'm not knacking the booktube community in any way, shape, or form, but I know many of us are absolutely sick and tired of the same recommendations over and over and over again. So whether you're in a reading slump, want something just right for your mood, or you're just trying to crush that reading challenge, I mean, honestly, this episode is all about how the popular AI assistants can actually enhance your reading life. Get away from those overhyped and overly recommended books. Like I said, I'm not knacking on BookTube. I'm not knacking on Book Talk, but this will help you broaden your horizons a little bit and get introduced to many amazing authors and titles that fit your reading style. Um, so let's dive into it. So let's talk about what an AI assistant is. And since I'm a software engineer, you know, many people don't know what AI can has the capacity to do. And there's different types of AI, there's different types of machine learning, and to put it in the simplest of terms, AI assistance is basically a smart software you can chat with. So it uses a thing called natural language processing, which is how we communicate, write, talk, um, and interact with one another. And it uses that to understand what you are typing in response in a human like response. So it'll help you like brainstorm, it'll help you find information. So think of it like a glorified Google search, if you will, but um it's more personalized, it's more intuitive, and it's really cool if you're getting away from the whole fear of AI taking over and everything. um it actually helps make things a lot more efficient for people if you leverage it in the correct way. um the three main AI assistants I'm going to be talking about today is DeepSeek, Gemini, and ChatGPT. ChatGPT I've been personally using quite a bit, and I actually was using Google Gemini for quite a bit longer than ChatGPT. But I wanted to dive into DeepSeek because I know that's a huge topic that's always mentioned in the tech world, and I just want to show you like how it makes book recommendations so much better. And honestly, like every platform has its own unique thing. And I'm hoping that with this episode that we're going to dive into how you can prompt it, how you can get, that perfect book recommendation, why you should use it, and why it also can help you recommend booktubers and podcasters like myself. So it definitely gives you something different. So let's dive into that. So for me, um I used to look at like Facebook posts. I used to look at like booktube and book talk. I still do, honestly. But from a perspective of a reader, like that kind of mood reads now, not just like a specific genre and trying to keep up with the times, but like they call it an algorithm of sorts. But the way that like Goodreads and all of these like platforms that book track and recommend, even like YouTube itself, it has its own like literal algorithm to give you recommendations on things you like and how you interact with the the video. And like typically it reads like what kind of trends that you watch. So it'll give you recommendations that are similar, if not, you know, it's very similar to the content that you've watched. So, um, and I know Pandora does the same thing. Like each software in its own right has its own algorithm, and Goodreads is a typical book tracking. I know I personally use hardcover app. Um, I know many use StoryGraph. I could go on and on with this list, but honestly, like what's popular and what is recommended, sometimes it's pushed through sponsorship and all that. Um, the highly marketed, Penguin Random House books and things like that. So, I mean, for me, like I personally like ChatGPT. But I will break down each one. But ChatGPT, I like to think of it as more of like chatting with a bookish friend. It's really conversational and playful and great with like mood reading and vibe reading and aesthetics and quirkiness. Whereas DeepSeek, which is another AI assistant based out of China, um, ChatGPT is more open AI based, whereas DeepSeek is modeled and trained through a China company. And they have a massive context of memory, so it like can cross reference like book analysis and things like that. So it's a little bit more of filling in the gaps and giving you that more in-depth like recommendation, and it can really give you like a super tailored like suggestion. And then Gemini, which is powered through Google, many people that have like an Android phone might actually see Gemini built into their phones now. It uses really strong, it's really strong at like explanations and nuances. So it tells you why it picked a book and how it connects to your taste. And it also uses what I like to call multimodal. Multimodal is like text, image, audio. So like even if you're using like a video, like even my podcast, if you maybe you like end up putting my podcast audio file into Gemini, it will look at that. It'll like go through the model for natural language processing. It'll go through and feed it through its model, and then it will give you, okay, these are the titles, or maybe it'll give you, hey, these are the titles that are mentioned, maybe you should try these. So I mean, based off of what you give it, it'll give back in its own way. But honestly, out of all of them, you know I like ChatGPT because it's just a little bit more interactive. It really goes beyond what's trending. Many of these will go beyond what's trending. It uses like the specific prompt you give it. So if you ever do want to look into like prompt engineering, that is one way of kind of looking deeper into this topic. But for the sake of like reading recommendations and things like that, if you get as detailed as possible, so like say you liked A Court of Thorn or Roses, very popular fae fantasy romantasy series that's recommended over and over and over again. Say you want something similar to that, you can ask it, hey, I really liked this Court of Thorn of Roses by Sarah J. Maas, but can you give me another recommendation? You can't just say, hey, recommend me a book. So, I mean, you have to be very specific. It does save a lot of time from scrolling through like Goodreads and Facebook. And actually, like in the future segments of this episode, I actually gave it a big old test between the three platforms. I asked it the same prompt and I got different recommendations from each one. But when I first used it for book recs, because I was noticing like on Infinite, on specific channels, I was getting the same recommendations. Allie Hazelwood, if I wanted to go after romance, if, you know, Abby Jimenez for romance, Sarah J. Maas for romantasy, TJ Klune for LGBTQIA, recommendations. So it's like, and then, even for just plain fantasy, I was getting, um, again, Sarah J. Maas when there's really amazing other, authors out there. So, I really tested it to its boundaries, and that's how I started really getting into what I feel like is more mood reading. Just because I look at like these booktubers, and they have these recommended arcs that they get, and I think it's great. I think it's awesome if you have a specific genre and whatnot, but like recommending the same authors over and over again. I know Kristen Hanna started popping up majorly within my algorithm. I know when I liked something with the Akatar series, I was getting Phantasma and all these other. I think even Quicksilver was popped up several times for me to recommend. Recommended to me for reading, but in the most sense, for me, I look to those channels, and I'll kind of break down which channels I usually go to, and why. But for the sake of this, I think honestly, it really allowed me to get that specific mood. Like I gave it the description of, hey, I'm really looking for a specific book in this horror genre, and I kind of want it to be psychological, or I kind of want it to be paranormal. Can you give me recommendations? Like, because I've really liked books like Darcy Coates and Riley Sager and Catherine Thorne from Diavola. I would give it specific titles that I've read in the past, and Home Before Dark for Riley Sager, and it gave me additional recommendations. And I'll talk about what those recommendations look like, what those prompts look like, and etc. But I mean, like when it comes to looking for something beyond what's like overly hyped and overly recommended, I definitely recommend like writing down these prompts that I'm going to mention. Um, just since this is like a way of getting those additional recommendations and opening up your horizons. But let's dive into how I ask these AI assistants for book recommendations, because like I mentioned, the more detail you get, but how detailed do you need to be to get your recommendations? So a lot of the prompts that I've asked it in the past is, I guess like the psychological thrillers book group on Facebook is a great one, because there will be people that will go on there and they'll be like, hey, I'm looking for a book that'll scare the living crap out of me. I've read books like, Incidents Around the House. I've read Bird Box by Josh Mallerman. I've read, you know, what was another one that they mentioned? I think it was Gallant by V. Schwab. Like they'll just throw like random out there, and a lot of people will continuously recommend, hey, you should check out this Riley Sager book, or hey, you should check out, oh, what's another one? Lisa Jewell. Like they'll recommend Lisa Jewell, and then hey, they'll recommend Stephen King. And like those are great, those are awesome, but like maybe sometimes they don't want to have those recommendations. So as I'm talking with you guys right now, I'm going to punch into ChatGPT. Um, I want a book where it will scare the living poop out of me. Okay, look, I can't type with one hand. Hang on. Okay, so I gave it the prompt. I want a book where it will scare the living crap out of me. I've loved books by Riley Sager, by Stephen King, but I'm looking for some other recommendations. Can you give me 5 recommendations and why? And what it responded with was, yes, let's do it. If you want a book to scare the absolute crap out of you, you want something that will crawl under your skin, keep you tense, maybe give you nightmares. Since you like Riley Sager, which is a psychological suspense and creepy houses type vibe, and Stephen King, slow dread, sometimes supernatural, I'll mix in a bit of both. Plus, crank up the fear factor. So the 5 books that it recommended based on that prompt was The Troop by Nick Cutter. Why? Think Lord of the Flies meets body horror. A troop of Boy Scouts on a remote Canadian island encounters something terrifying and parasitic. Graphics squirm inducing with a relentless sense of dread. If you're squeamish, this will test your limits. I have never personally read this book, but that sounds absolutely fantastic. I hated Lord of the Flies because of the bullying and stuff, but honestly, I could hop on that. What's the next one? Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Oh yes, I've read this one. Creepy, decaying manor in the Mexican countryside, sinister family secrets, psychedelic body horror. Starts atmospheric like a gothic slow burn, then hits you with grotesque skin crawling reveals. Perfect if you like unsettling houses. Yes, I would say that is dead on accurate. That was an amazing book. I gave that like a 5 stars. It was creepy as heck, but it was good. Let's see, The Fisherman by John Langan. It starts with grief-soaked literary horror, 2 widowers bound over fishing, but slowly unfolds into cosmic horror, haunted legends, and monstrous folklore. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. By the end, it's an absolute gut punch of existential dread. King fans especially eat this up. Yeah, I've never heard of that one, but yeah, I probably will pick that one up. This is probably not making my situation any better because if you're been around since the beginning, I have an over 200 plus physical TBR that I will remind my listeners, and I'm trying very, 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 very hard to stick with what I personally own, um, which is another thing I'm gonna kind of dive into. But let's just keep going with this. But yeah, in essence, this is not helping my situation because like a lot of these books that are being recommended are not what's on my shelf right now. The other 2 books that were recommended was Come Closer by Sarah Gran. Why it was recommended: short but deeply disturbing possession story. It's written so matter of factly that the horror sneaks up on you. You'll question the narrator's sanity, your own, and maybe reality itself. Unsettling in the lose control of your mind way. And then the final recommendation was The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. Why it was recommended: historical graphic gothic horror set in a creaky old English estate. A widow moves in, finds life-size painted wooden figures. Oh, that's really fucking creepy. And they start moving. Oh, that's even worse. Spooky atmosphere dialed to 100, guaranteed to make you jump at the shadows. Oh, yeah, I kind of need to add this one too. I'm writing this down right now. Okay, written down. Okay, so let's say, so like I said, I use the description that I want a book that will scare the living crap out of me. I gave it some recommended authors that I really liked, and then I asked for the number of recommendations and why. So as you can see, it personalizes it. There was one in that whole list that I actually did read. So I could follow up and tell ChatGPT that, hey, I read this book. You're dead on. I love this list. I'm adding it. And if you wanted additional, you just tell it follow up on, hey, I've read these titles. Can you give me additional recommendations? And it'll keep spitting out recommendations to you. Um, and the same goes for, what book should I read if I liked, say, Phantasma? So let's give that a whirl. Okay, so I asked it, what book should I read if I liked Phantasma by Kaylee Smith? And then it said, awesome! Phantasma by Kaylee Smith is that lush, dark romantasy with necromancy, a magical academy, danger, found family vibes, and a slow burn romance with real stakes. Plus, it has the slightly gothic undercurrent in playful but angsty banter. So if you love Phantasma, here are 5 books you might want to pick up next. Plus, why they'd scratch that same itch. So the 5 that it recommended, and actually some of these I've never heard of. Let's see here. Okay, so the first book that it recommended is by Carrie Lake, and I'm probably gonna botch up this poor title. Nocticadia, Nocticadia, Nocticadia. A favorite among Phantasma fans, this gothic, high stakes paranormal romance features an atmospheric setting, dark secrets, and irresistible chemistry with a supernatural twist. Reddit users say Nocticadia is what you have to read next. Okay. The second one, Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. Darkly romantic and myth infused, this standalone delivers devilish deals, masked ball intrigue, and sweeping paranormal romance. Perfect for fans of deadly games and seductive darkness. Interesting. Then it also recommended. I'm not gonna read all these descriptions, but I'll give you like a rough idea of what it returned. Coven of Ill Repute by S.L. Prater. A gothic paranormal romance with witchy secrets and simmering tension. This one balances charm and danger. Another standout pick recommended in the fantasy romance community. Let's see. And then it looks like it actually recommended 2 by Carrie Lake. So the 5th one it recommended was Anathema by Carrie Lake, another mood-rich dark fantasy from Lake. And Anathema follows a cursed heroine navigating a twisted otherworldly realm. Wow, I can't read today. It's gothic, emotional, and full of haunting magic. And then finally, Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue, Laraux, maybe? I don't know. A gripping demon hunter. Interesting. Demon hunter. Huh. Okay. Demon hunter romance with morally gray characters, spooky stakes, and intense supernatural chemistry. Fans describe it as perfect for those who love demon devil heartthrobs. Okay. But yeah, like if you give it those specific prompts, I'd be curious on what it recommends to you. But yeah, like how you can refine your results is by giving it more descriptors. So like so say you're in the mood for a rom-com or something. I personally would never punch that into mine just because I don't really read rom-com. But you can, like I said in previous examples, you can use like author titles or authors and titles and I'm looking for something bubbly or something that describes a mood. Like I want happy upbeat fiction book with in the genre of rom-com or um literary fiction, like just test it out, like give it some odd combinations, because like I've even asked it like, hey, I really like this one movie called Crimson Pink Peak. Oh my god, Crimson Peak. And I really want to find another book that has that vibe. Guess what it gave me? Gallant by V. Schwab. And I absolutely devoured and loved that book. And it had other recommendations. Like if you tell it to give you 10 recommendations, it will give you 10 recommendations. I've actually constructed my TBR jar with prompts that I asked ChatGPT to generate for me. Because I gave it the prompt like, hey, I want to fill a TBR jar. Can you give me 50 prompts that I can use to search my shelf? And with Gemini, I was able to take a picture of my bookshelf and do the same thing. Can you generate 50 TBR prompts for me to put in my TBR jar based off of what you see in this image? Because I was able to take a picture of all four of my bookshelves, and it was able to read everything off of it. So at the time, I was able to create these prompts. I would say if you're using pictures, I would definitely recommend going with Google Gemini. If you're looking for more conversational, like say you already know that you want to copy and paste like from this Facebook group that was, like exactly what I did. I want to scare the living crap out of myself. Like, give me some 5 book recommendations. You can copy and paste, like, those prompts from other people and put it into ChatGPT and it'll spit it out for you. So, honestly, just don't be afraid to ask for weirdly specific combos, because the more specific you get, the more it's going to nail what you're looking for. So, in the next section, I wanted to talk about some of the best books that I found from these platforms. And I think I've already briefly touched on it. And I just want to dive in a little bit deeper, because honestly, you like, if you're not convinced by now that this is an avenue for you, because I know, like I said, we constantly get these same recommendations. Maybe some of the books that I mention on my podcast are repeated over BookTube and Book Talk. Maybe they are, because I know when I was looking at Book Talk and building up my bookcase, I was taking a lot of the titles from those videos in purchasing those books when they went on sale or secondhand, like through thrift books or half price books. And I have them on my shelf and they just accumulated. A lot of them were in the fantasy realm. But honestly, like even Cassandra Clare, there, I can't remember where I had gotten that recommendation from. Maybe it was oh, you know what? I do know who it's from. Yeah, A Clockwork Reader was the booktuber that kind of got me into Cassandra Clare books. Um she's very popular. She has like over 39K views on some of her videos from 8 years ago, just scrolling through this. And then I like definitely go through Florence Harvey's YouTube channel. Olivia Reads a Latte is another one. She's like definitely hard hitting when it comes to like thrillers, and just like if you want to see like reading vlogs and things like that. I just kind of like the vibe. And honestly, like I know a lot of us, like we will go to specific channels or we'll go to specific podcasts, and we're looking for a specific vibe, and like I said, that's okay. But this is how I got my start to my list, and this is how I've been expanding it, is by using the Chat GPT. Um, Let me see. Florence Harvey, she's like more of like literary fiction. So I guess let's talk about that first before I dive into the best books that I found on ChatGPT or Gemini. Um, Honestly, for me, I like thrillers, I like classics, I like now I can officially say that I am into romanticises, but I have to take it in like bite sizes, because some of the romance in these romanticises, I get really angry and pissed off at them. So it's just like it's a little frustrating, but at the same time too, some of them have been really really good, like the repetitive Phantasma and Akatar series. And then being peer pressured by my friend Kristen to read Akatar's series, I had to put A Court of Starlight in something. I think that's the novella. I don't have the book in front of me, but oh, actually I do have it in front of me. A Court of Frost Starlight. A Court of Silver Flames is the final one. But I took a break. I had to set down that series just because I needed to take a tiny break, even though I love like marathoning through a whole series. But as soon as I found out that one was getting expanded, I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. But to kind of get back on track, because my ADH brain is going in hyperdrive right now, the main channels that I go to are Olivia Reads a Latte, Clockwork Reader, Florence Harvey, Lily Grace, Elliot Brooks, Murphy, Napier, um, let's see, Meg with books. So a lot of UK based booktubers, if you're kind of catching on. Peru's project, she is absolutely fantastic when it comes to sci-fi and fantasy reads. Even Murphy, Napier, and Elliot Brooks, they are fantastic when it comes to those books as well. Um, Gabby reads. I definitely like her recommendations when it comes to thrillers. I actually just recently got introduced to her channel, along with Lily Grace. She's more of like romance and rom com and I would say literary fiction as well, but I've only been exposed to her channel probably for about a month now. Florence Harvey, she's all over the place, and I love it. I love that about her. She's you know, really great with like thrillers. She does like TBR jar type episodes. She does like weekly challenges for herself, which I admire. She even admits, like, she even like has mentioned on her channel that she lives with dyslexia. So, I mean, I think it's great that each of these booktubers kind of bring their own unique splice of life. And I think that's mainly why a lot of people go after like book talk and booktube and bookstagram. There's just like a certain element and a certain, you know, zhuzh, if you will, to going through this. Now, you know, my podcast, like I had mentioned, I just do this for fun. Whether no one listens to it or a whole bunch of people listen to it, like my one episode got like 25 listens, which I'm very appreciative for it. And maybe some of the stuff that I even recommend, even if I ramble on and on, you know, maybe it like helped you out with getting out of a reading slump. But the whole purpose of this is to show you that ChatGPT doesn't just give you like book recommendations, and this is where I'm going with this. It can give you recommendations for booktubers and Facebook groups, and if you ask it, it will give you responses. So maybe if you tell it, "Oh, I'm in this group," it'll give you another recommendation, like kind of like the book recommendations. So let's dive into that. This is a great time to kind of segue into the best books I found on ChatGPT. So several of the books that I found were by Riley Sager. I had read Diavola and Home Before Dark. Diavola is by Catherine Thorne. Home Before Dark is by Riley Sager. So I gave it that prompt, and it gave me The House Across the Lake. It also gave me Middle of the Night. It also gave me Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. And I have to say, those have been the absolute best thrillers I've read in a very long time. I used to read like Ruth Ware and Lisa Jewell and, very popular thriller esque authors, but it started to really expand me to these new authors. And now Riley Sager is a staple when it comes to thrillers. Um, I don't know if many people talk about Diavola, but I personally found that to be, yes, it's considered horror, but I would consider it to be, you know, um, thriller as well. So, I mean, I guess it just depends on what people are talking about and, the kind of vibe you're looking for. So, you would probably be surprised that some that are classified as horror are actually really like thriller. Incidents Around the House. That one was fantastic on audiobook. But when I read it, physical read, I was like, okay, well, I kind of need to switch gears to audiobook, and it made the experience so much better. But I asked ChatGPT how you would recommend devouring this book, and it gave me the recommendation to do the audiobook. So that's what I'm saying though. It's so personalized to what you give it, and the fact that ChatGPT is very conversational. I like the fact again that Google Gemini looked at my bookcase and was able to give me 50 prompts for my TBR jar, and the fact that it was able to read the titles off of my image and be able to extract those into a list and then generate on the fly for me 50 different, TBR prompts was absolutely fantastic. I did in my TBR jar, I will mention I have specific titles that I wanted to reach for 2025. So everything that's on my TBR cart is something I want to hit before the end of 2025. So I added those in here as well. And honestly, the TBR jar has really been helping a lot. I know I've mentioned that I have like a bingo card that I've been running. I have a list every month that I run through. And if I'm in the mood reading, I will go on ChatGPT and look for those recommendations. But honestly, every single book that ChatGPT has given me, it's been at least a 4 or more star review for me. Like, I was not able to put many of these books down. And I mean, honestly, like the channels I mentioned for BookTube too, there's been quite a few titles that they've recommended, and I absolutely love them. And yes, they were very popular recommendations and overly hyped up books, but many of them did live up to the hype. So, my big thing is though, and this is the final thing that I'm going to mention about ChatGPT before we wrap this up. But if you're looking for specific indie authors, or if you're looking for authors that are just getting started, you can even give it a prompt to look for those specific books and get recommendations. Because once they upload it, like the book and the synopsis, because like when you're publishing an independent book, and the only reason why I know this is because I'm actually in the process of writing my own book. I'm actually in the process of writing a application as well for generating from picture to list to uploading to Storygraph and Goodreads and things like that. But like technology is very powerful, and the fact that we can use ChatGPT to not only save time, but it's also super efficient, so you're not having to waste so much time going through endless videos and scrolling and Goodreads. And it just it's literally having like a librarian or bookish friend in the palm of your hand that knows exactly what you're looking for, because you're telling it exactly what you need to fulfill your reading goals. So honestly, like between trying to finish up my bingo cards, trying to finish up my TBR list, trying to knock off this physical TBR that I have that unfortunately does keep growing. It's there's just so much variety out there, and like you can't say that you don't have something to read because in the end, if you go on like BookTube or Book Talk or my podcast, or even the other podcast that I listen to is the Two Bitches Reading podcast, the TBR podcast. They are absolutely funny and fantastic. And I recommend them highly because they like kind of cover a broad range of like books as well. But honestly, if you kind of go through all these avenues and you put in the prompts and you do like kind of like the tweaking, I promise you it will give you your next like amazing page turner. And you could come back at me if it doesn't, but you guys know where to find me. I'm on Facebook. I am on Podbean. I'm on Apple Podcasts. I'm on Spotify. I'm on YouTube. I'm here. I'm on a Discord channel. I still have my Discord channel. So yeah. I mean, I would love to hear from you guys. If you are listening still, I hope that you found the tips in this episode helpful. I hope it gave you kind of a little bit more peace of mind of how AI is not taking over, but it's if you leverage it in the right way, you can really benefit like your way of life. with your book recommendations. So, um, like I said, I'm not going to keep rambling, but I hope that you find your next book recommendation. And I will definitely see you on the next episode. I apologize that this episode is coming out late. We had here in the U.S. we had the 4th of July week. My daughter had softball, so this episode is coming out late, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helps you, and I wish you happy reading. Bye.